Sorry, we were muted. I'll make sure to trim that out when on the recording. Well, hello everyone. That was a really good intro too. Bummer. So what I was saying is the most fun part of architecture for me is usually the early pieces of the project. I do enjoy the nuts and bolts and figuring out details and how things go together once a design is sort of hashed out, but the process of actually working through the problem solving of laying out a floor plan, of massing out a building, of figuring out all the different options, of realizing how many different options you have and how many different choices you can make and what that's going to become down the road is super fun. You also get to draw, right? You get to use different mediums. We're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Revit. We're going to be talking about using the iPad, some sketching, some process workflows, and really how I approach this early stage of a project. I'm going to talk about my processes, my workflows, some of the tips and tricks, and hopefully you enjoy it. I'm going to be introducing a project. We're calling it the North Wing. It's a residential Revit addition, a primary bedroom suite, with also a bonus room above it potentially. And yeah, so one thing I'm going to do differently in this series, I think, is there may be some edited videos, but I might actually try to sort of live stream along the way and give you guys progress updates, because that's something a little different than I haven't done before, and maybe it'll keep me honest as I'm going through the process. So without further ado, let's run the intro and let's jump right into this North Wing episode. This is actually episode 115 of BIM After Dark Live. I know, crazy. And I know it's been a little break, so thank you guys for joining us live. And yeah, let's run the intro and we'll jump right in. All right. Sorry about that. It's been like, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks since I did a live stream, so I guess I forgot to unmute myself. I know. After 115 episodes, you'd think I'd remember that. Well, thanks again for joining me. My name is Jeff, also known as the Revit Kid. This is BIM After Dark Live, which is a weekly live stream where we talk about Revit, BIM, architecture, engineering, construction, and any really adjacent technology to that. So with this episode, it's going to be a little unique in the sense that it's just me. There's no guests. And we're also going to be running through a project that you guys aren't familiar with. And so we're going to do a quick overview, and then we'll jump into some processes and workflows. I do have an iPad here that I'm going to attempt to live stream. So cross our fingers that goes well. I tested it out before. It seemed to work all right. But yeah, so what I want to do first is I'm just going to jump into the project. I'm going to give you an overview of the project. First thing I should say is this is my house we're going to be working on. For those who have been following along, you may have seen some of the episodes where I talked about an addition I put, which is this beautiful office/studio that we're in here with a dining room above it. And so this is what I'm calling phase 2 of that project, which is again adding a primary bedroom as suite and potentially a bonus room or reverse, depending on how the design goes over. And so let's quickly run through the actual overview of the project. I'll show you some of the design options I have right now, and then we'll start talking about more process, workflows, etc. Again, if you're here live, feel free to chat. Because I don't have a guest, it's going to be a lot harder for me to view it, but I will make sure I keep an eye on it as we go through. If you have questions, comments, concerns, feedback, etc. I'm pretty new at the processes I'm doing on the iPad, and so some of you guys may actually have some tips and some suggestions. So feel free to jump in, and let's have a good time. All right. So what we're going to do first is I'm actually just going to run through the project itself in the house. So here's the interesting thing about this project is, again, it's a sort of, let's call it a phase 2. Reggie just asked, was phase 1 designed with phase 2 in mind? No. Let me jump back to that real quickly. No, it was not. So one of the downfalls of that is I didn't upgrade the panel. I only had a sub panel when I did phase 1, not thinking I was actually going to do a little more. But a couple of things have happened. One being the mortgage rates not coming down, and then house pricing going through the roof, and so that's kind of went there. So one of the things I regret on phase one is I didn't upgrade the panel from 100 amp to 200 amp. I had a sub panel. We just upgraded the sub panel to power this guy. So I'm gonna have to upgrade the panel from 100 amp to 200 amp for this go around. So no, it was not done with that in mind. I assumed and thought that this was kind of be the only projects in the house, but things change, life happens, and you decide to modify your approach. So, the last thing I should say too is I will be also general contracting this, similar to how I did this office / dining room addition with a deck as well. So I will be the contractor, so it'll be design build, and so I do plan on sharing a lot of that stuff and some of the things I'm doing along with that line. I think for you architects who are always interested in design build, I'm hoping maybe it's an opportunity for you to see some of the aspects of the build side of it, as well as how beneficial BIM and Revit can be if you're doing a design build approach to small scale residential architecture. So, yeah, Reggie said, damn rates. Yeah, tell me about it. But I'm not upset about the rate I have in this house because I refinanced while they were low. But so here was the existing house back when I bought it over 8 years ago, I think. And so just spin around. It is your typical raised ranch, if you're familiar with that style of home. It's very common here in New England. And basically what it is it's a raised ranch. So you imagine this is essentially where you typically would have a ranch. You'd have basically grade here, and you'd have living room, dining room, kitchen over here, bedrooms over here, and essentially your single level ranch. The difference is they basically pop it up off the ground, and you either put garages under here. Sometimes it's just a basement. Sometimes it's finished. In my house, it's half finished over on this side, and then a 2-car garage on this side. So what was phase one? If you guys didn't see it, this was phase one here. So I'll just jump in and I'll flip from new construction to phase one. And so you can see what we did here is we bumped out on the back about I think it was 400 something square feet. So two and some change per floor. So it wasn't huge. It was 12 by 14, I think, something like that. But I also did this huge deck, which has been incredibly awesome. I was kind of skeptical at first. I'm like, this is when I started framing it, and this thing was like, oh my god, this thing is gigantic. It's like 30 something, 39 by 12 or whatever it is. With this cool little piece over here, I tucked the stairs in, and it is awesome, I will say. The other thing that it did is it kind of hides the awkward massing of a raised ranch. And so one of the things that I don't like about raised ranches is kind of that massing. I'll pull to the front here. How you have sort of this half concrete, half it's just kind of a weird massing. It's not terrible, right, as far as the golden rule and just feeling the mass of it as architects, as we're doing here. But there's just something about that 2-foot overhang that's on both sides that, I don't know, just doesn't tickle my fancy. And so the deck kind of hides that in the rear. You can see as I spin around here. Okay, so that added some space. That added a dining room above, which helped us expand the kitchen a little bit. I should probably go to the floor plan so you guys can see. First floor plan. So you can see what it did here is it bumped out, added a dining room here. So it basically took this dining room, which would normally be down here, pushed it out there, and then allowed us to bump this kitchen out and have a much more open space for the kitchen there. And so again, that's also been awesome too, having this big island or peninsula, I guess it would be, that we kind of all eat around and hang out at has been great. And then of course this is an awesome place for all the kids' toys to just get thrown all over the floor and play, and can never have enough space for all the little kiddos. But you can see here's the deck here as well that goes all the way across. So we have this cool little space that I absolutely love on the outside here. There's some nice lounge chairs and a fire pit out here with a little umbrella, and it's really neat. It kind of detaches yourself from the house. So, and then if we look at the overall floor plan, I'll turn off the scope box here. For those not familiar with this house type, this is a very typical raised ranch floor plan. You have kitchen, you have a living space, you have a dining room, before I bumped out, and then you have 1, 2, 3 bedrooms with as many bathrooms as they could possibly fit in there. So you can see there is sort of a small master suite here, but they shoved it in as much as possible. We actually have a 45-degree toilet, which is a fascinating thing if you've never seen that before. So scheme one, when I was going through this, did I build the deck myself? Yes, I did build the deck myself. If you look through description, I did some videos on the first phase. Unfortunately, I just didn't document it as well as I want. I was just very busy between designing and building it, and working and home and all that stuff. But I did document a lot of it, and so I didn't build everything. I did a lot of work myself, but I also general contracted stuff out that needed to be. But yeah, the deck was a mix between myself and the carpenters, who did sort of the major structural framing for some of it, and then I filled in the gaps there. Okay, so let me jump back in here. Oop. Okay, so now we're at the point where we're looking to add another bedroom, and initially it was going to be okay. Let's add another bedroom, which would be easy, right? But at the same time, that master is pretty small for a master, and they're all kind of decent sized bedrooms as they are. So where do you fit them? How do you fit them? And so on and so forth. So I've been thinking about this for a while, and currently I'm on scheme 3, essentially major scheme 3. So I'm going to run through scheme 1 first, and then work our way to where we are today, so you guys can get a sense of that, and then we'll talk about why, some of the pros and cons of each one. And so I'll jump in the floor plan since I'm there. Oh, it's scheme 1. Let me go back to scheme. Okay, so this was scheme 1, and so I spent quite a bit of time on it. As you can see, the model's pretty developed. One of the things I'm going to talk about today is how far along these models look, and the, I don't know if I want to call it the fear, but there's sort of a natural fear of modeling too much early, right? And so I want to talk about that a little bit today and my thoughts on that. But before I do that, let's just run through the schemes. And so what you can see here is this is, and I'll do a previous and new so you guys can see where the bump out is. So a couple of things happening here. Obviously, this is jutting out from the front. It actually has a decent look to it. It helps kind of, again, hide some of those awkwardness. One of the things, there's a couple needs other than just a master bedroom. One of the things, my wife always wanted a covered porch in front of her house. It's just one of the things that she's always wanted. She grew up with it. She wants it, and so we're trying to figure out how to pull that into it. Because we'll be building out on the top here, I figured, well, why not give myself another garage, because there's really nothing else to attach to on the lower level. You're essentially attached directly to the garage, and so this is kind of, and then obviously trying to make the massing look decent, with again sort of an awkward house there. So this one I actually took to a pretty high level. I thought this was going to be it. I even did some nice twin motion renderings of it, which I'll open right now somewhere. There they go. So here's some twin motion renderings of the interior. Part of this was me just messing around with Lumen for interiors and seeing what I can get out of it. But you can see it's not bad. I actually do like it. It's not too bad. The one, some of the cons, there's the bathroom there. There's a nice little shot of it. So this is all Lumen, by the way, in twin motion, so it's not path traced. It's actually real time. I didn't want to open that live today because I've got the iPad going, air playing and all this stuff, and I don't know, it was a scary thought. So I didn't want to open that today, but maybe I'll do a whole nother video on just this sort of twin motion thing. I'm going to be taking the other schemes into this level anyways, but so as you can see, it kind of helps hide the awkwardness of the raised ranch massing. I personally think it looks pretty nice. It kind of plays on the scheme and the sort of design that I was going for on the backside, which is kind of like a pseudo modern farmhouse style thing, But there are some cons to this, and part of the reason why I kind of pulled away from it. One is, this is essentially the street, and yeah, we're 90 something feet away from it, but we are up on a hill, and so having your master bedroom and your master bath sort of up on this area, I feel like it would be almost like a fishbowl. Like I feel like everyone that drove by or walked by with their dogs and stuff would basically be looking into our master bath and into our master bedroom, which you kind of want it to be a little more private, right? So that was kind of negative number 2. Positive is obviously getting another garage for myself, of course. But another negative here is the site plan. Let me jump to the site plan for you guys. There we go. Okay, so if I go here, what you can see here is essentially, and this is actually the wrong property line. They originally drew it at 30. It's supposed to be 25. But basically, we're basically hitting the corner of our setbacks. We're maximizing. We're right at the corner. In fact, I would probably have to have some discussions with the building department to figure out, can I have the 3% of the covered deck within the setback? Would you be okay with that? Because technically the zoning regs. So there was that issue as well. We're really pushing right against the setback. The building is essentially tucked up against the corner. We have a 50-foot front setback and a 25-foot side yard setback, plus 60 foot from the street. So we're really pushing the boundaries of the setback. Which, do you want to do that? I don't know. But that was, that actually forcing me to keep everything a certain size, because of that setback, which I didn't like either. I didn't like being forced to sort of do that. And then finally, if I go to the floor plan, the other big downfall, in my opinion, to this was, sorry, I have a whole bunch of views on here, is we'd essentially have to cut one of our current larger bedrooms that my son is sleeping in now. We'd essentially have to cut it in half, and not in half, I guess, take a third out of it or something like that in order to get in there. And so you're making all these, I'm showing full-size beds, or twin, full, whatever. They're bedrooms, but I mean, this one right here especially, this is like the minimum size bedroom that you want in a house. I mean, it's like 9 by 10 or 9, I don't know, something like that. So it's livable, but it reduces the number of windows in these two bedrooms. Oh, that's the other thing too. Actually, I should quickly. This window too, this is kind of the double windows here. So it's kind of eating up a lot of that interior space, which I wasn't a huge fan of. So that was kind of scheme one. So then enter scheme two. I'm looking around and saying to myself, ideally you want the bedrooms all to kind of be on the same side of the house, but this is a primary suite, and if there's any room that's the potential to not be part of that side of the house, then maybe this is it. I did play with some ideas of back here, doing sort of a U shape and bumping out. The problem is I've got my septic tank right here, septic line there, and my deck that I built. So that was something that I wasn't a huge fan of doing either. And again, you'd still have the same issue of how do you get into this room without eating up space on the other one. So then enter scheme two, which is, okay, let's start looking at the other side of the house. So here's scheme two. Notice now this scheme is basically just building a nice covered deck, modifying the entrance a little bit to give us a nice covered deck, but then using that, let's say, motif to carry it across and sort of tie this linear ranch together, and pull that architectural sort of style across. With this one, I'm looking at it. We have a nice flat spot back here. Let me go. So you can see the grade. The grade kind of starts dipping off about right here. So we actually have about I want to say it's about almost 17, 18 feet in one direction and probably about 16 feet in the other, where it's pretty flat there, and then it starts dipping away on both sides. And so I'm thinking maybe that's a good opportunity. Plus, if you look at the site plan, we have plenty of room over there. No problem with setbacks. It is the north side of the house, so that's a negative. Hence north wing, right? That's the north side of the house. But then we also have a raised ranch. Raised ranches are awkward in the sense of that sort of half level. So let me jump in and show you this section. So scheme two basically was me saying, okay, let's make this efficient by going slab on grade, right? So if I do slab on grade, then essentially my framing is walls and a roof, right? And then everything is concrete and so on and so forth. I have the level. The problem with that is, let me do a section cut through here for you guys. And hopefully you guys are interested in this. If you're not, if you just want me to jump into the technical stuff, go for it. But I mean, I'm assuming if you're architects, you're interested in this. But so basically, right, the way a raised ranch works is, usually the basement is kind of half underground, right? So you can see here, here's my basement level. That's actually right through those doors. That's where I'm sitting right now, right in that room right there. But you can see you enter on the landing of the stair, and you go up and then you go down. And so basically, if I wanted slab on grade, I need to somehow get into here. So I was playing with this concept of having the chimney exposed inside, having maybe a set of stairs. It's like a half landing, so it's like 9 stairs to get down to it. And then you're kind of in the space, and it's, you know, it's good to go. All right, and so I'll show you what the scheme looks like in floor plan. So you can see now you'd kind of enter off. I was thinking maybe do a little alcove off of the living room so it doesn't feel as like, boom, you're right there. You have a nice landing here. You're overlooking this double-heighted space. And then you go down these stairs, and now you're into the master. And so you're still kind of connected to the first floor, but not at the same time. And then if I go to the basement phase too, which is where we would actually be at that point in time. Oh, sorry, this is the master suite level. And so then the layout kind of came like this. So obviously we're eating up a lot of space with stairs and under the stairs, but you know, we're still able to fit a pretty decent master bath, a decent master closet, bigger than we have now, and everything we need in here. So that's pretty cool. The problem is, you know, I'm looking at this, and let me go to the section. And so this is kind of what it looks like in section. So a neat little space. You know, I think it's feasible. I think all those schemes are honestly feasible. But then I'm looking at this, and you know, yeah, I'm slab on grade here, and obviously I'd want to raise the grade, or maybe this has come down a little bit. But I'm still gonna have to dig frost walls from here to here, and basically have this little space in the middle. So I'm gonna do one side is probably gonna be 4 feet deep, the other side is probably gonna be 5 feet deep, and then you have this huge thing, and then this island in the middle. And you know, I'm still gonna be doing a lot of digging, still gonna be putting the concrete there, and then I'm also gonna be, you know, putting the plumbing underground, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I said, okay, well, what? And then of course I'm also, you know, building these stairs within it. And so then you know, the next scheme, basically I'm looking at like, okay, so if we wanted to not have, you know, 9 stairs in the room, and let's say we did a 2-story scheme over here that looked good, but also took advantage of it, and then we take full advantage of the fact that we're going to be laying down this foundation. Maybe we add some more space for family, right? And so scheme 3, let me jump. And sorry, I don't have High Revit's not for 2025 yet, and I don't have colored tabs going. So I'm sorry, I'm jumping around like crazy, but I don't know what projects is what. I'm sure you all can relate. It's one of these 3D ones. Here we go. No stairs. Here we go. I have to get John Pearson to give me the neat UI. Okay, John, if you're on here, send me a neat UI activation link. Okay, so scheme 3 is kind of where I'm landing right now, which is this scheme right here. And so essentially similar idea to this front side of it, right? It's got this nice linear, it pops the scale down, it starts breaking up the weird 2-foot bump out thing, cantilever thing from it. I'm carrying across that piece there. This bump out is giving me a little bunch of extra room for the master. And now what we're doing here is we're actually essentially matching the levels of the house. The only difference, if I turn on the section box, is I said if I'm gonna go downstairs with the master, then let's bump up this bonus room, call it a family room, and give us a nice little couple steps up into it from the inside. So this room can become like this secondary family room with carpet and large sectional couch and toys everywhere as usual. But that also gives us now almost a 9-foot ceiling in the quote unquote basement master suite. And so this is the scheme where I'm at now, and I'll run through a little bit of it first, and I'll cut a section the other way too so you can see. So one side is actually essentially not subgrade, right? Similar to where my office is right now, which is I'm sitting right there. One side's not subgrade, the other side essentially is. And you can see we've got sort of this very common, I don't want to call it a shed roof, but this is kind of a common sort of Cape New England-y detail where you kind of break the planes with two different slopes, and then the shed dormer. I've always been a fan of the shed dormer, but what I'm excited about that is it brings the scale of this overall thing down. Because taking this guy and just extruding it across, taking this and just extruding across, taking that mass and extruding across is just too much. It's too much, in my opinion. And so this kind of helps us break everything down, bring the scale down, add some architectural elements that. And then obviously you can see I'm playing with some materials to break it all up a little bit too. And so I'm thinking about what that could look like. And I see you guys have some chat, so I'll read the chat in 1 minute. The one thing I will show you with this scheme, and I'll talk about it in a little bit, is the design options. And this one I was playing with some design options for it. But for the first part of it was, okay, what does it look like if the bathroom's here and the bedroom's here? And then, the second option you'll see is flipped over. If I go to the section, you can see this would be the family room up here. So it's nice. So you've got this cool, you'll have like a 2-foot, steep gabled sort of detail that you see inside on both sides. I think the scale will be really nice. And then I get, this way I'm able to get a larger ceiling below. And so we're going to dig into this one quite a bit more today. And I'll talk about design options and some of the stuff moving in there. First, I'm going to check the chat real quick. Let's see. Loving it. Lucky son of a gun. Stairs don't make it age in place friendly. Yes, Reggie. That is the other thing I was thinking of too. Unfortunately, it's a raised ranch, so there's going to have to be stairs. So my thought was, at a minimum, if we put it on the lowest level, then, there's only one flight of stairs instead of the multiple flights of stairs. No matter what with this house, because of the design of it, living space is essentially all up on the second level. You kind of have to go up the stairs. But there is some validity to being on that lowest level and having it there and removing as many stairs as much as possible. Someone's talking about the setback line. Yeah. Like I said, I probably could talk to and the town that I live in is they're pretty good, and they're really good building officials, and they, for only a couple feet or something, they probably would have been okay. But that is the property side where we do have the neighbors the closest, the driveway's right there, the street's right there. I was more concerned less about the setback and more about the fact of pushing the what you really want to be private space much closer to the street. Okay, awesome. Greetings from Oregon. Hey, bud, what's going on? Electric Rob from Oregon. Okay, so a little overview of the projects of the 3 schemes. And the pros and the cons. Kind of, there's some for each. That last scheme, the scheme that we're kind of on right now, the pros there. I mean, yeah, it's got a lot more going on. You've got two stories. You got a little more construction, not too much more concrete or excavation, but a little more, a little more wood and details and stuff like that. But you're getting the benefit of this huge bonus room, which anyone who has kids knows that there's just never enough space for them. And so I think that would be really cool. Obviously, the con is that it's down on the lower level, furthest away from the kids' bedrooms. However, over time, that may be what my wife and I want. Right now, they're young enough that we kind of want to be close to them, but I'm sure they're going to reach an age where we want the most distance possible from them, right? So that's kind of where we're at right now. So what I want to do real quick is take a quick break to talk about something super exciting, and then we'll jump into some of the sketching stuff that I was working on and show you guys how I've been playing with some different schemes within it, as well as talk about modeling to that level of detail that you guys have seen at this early phase, as well as when to use design options versus save as or copy paste or whatever it is. And so that's where I want to jump in. But the first thing I want to do is if you guys haven't seen, whether it's on via email or on Twitter or here on YouTube, but I'm actually hosting a conference this year. And so if you have not heard about Niche BIM 2024, I wanted to make sure to introduce you guys to it. And so what is Niche BIM 2024? Well, let me get my house out of the way and show you guys. It's a one-day conference here in Hartford, Connecticut. Hopefully maybe moving to different locations throughout the years, but right now in my own backyard here in Hartford, Connecticut, in this really neat place called Hooker Live, which is the part of Thomas Hooker Brewery. But the theme of the conference is small firms, big BIM. So it is small firms, sole practitioners, single, lonely architects who are using BIM in small scale residential architecture. And so, over time, basically, I've gone to a lot of conferences, and, I've gone to lots of BIM conferences where they didn't talk at all about small scale residential, but they talked a lot about BIM. And then I've gone to lots of small scale residential conferences where they talked all about small scale residential, but not about BIM, right? And so my thought here, and you guys helped, I had a bunch of surveys via email and Twitter and so on, and I think here on YouTube as well, and seemed like you'd be super interested in attending an event like this. So what is it about? First, again, it's about small scale residential architects. The sessions are going to be unique in the sense that they will be BIM After Dark live style. So the guests and the speakers will come up. They'll do presentations on very specific topics, and we'll also have sort of a fireside chat interview with myself while we're doing it. Who are the speakers? Well, you've probably seen a lot of them here on the channel. They've been guests on the show. If not, they've had their own channels as well. It's myself, obviously hosting this event, but then we have Brenton Weiberg, who you guys have seen here on the channel, do a couple awesome shows. We have Dan Stein, who has also been on the channel. He works for Lake Flato Architects, who hopefully you guys know of, especially if you're residential guys and girls like me. Nicholas Cotillier, who runs BIM Pure, and Alex Gore, who also runs F9 Productions, which is his architecture firm, and hosts the Inside the Firm podcast. And then if you want to check out the details, you can check out all the sessions. There's 5 sessions. I'll put a link down below, but it is nichebim.com. That's nichebim.com. Some information about the venue, which again is called Thomas Hooker Live. It's in the historic Armory building of the Colt building, which you can see off of Interstate 95. It's an old Colt Armory manufacturing center. There's some questions here, but one thing I wanted to mention, of course, there's also five CEUs for all you AIA guys, learning units. When you sign up, just give the number, and you will get 5 CEUs for the event. They're approved, they're ready to go, and that is a guarantee. And then last but not least, we're holding a discount this week, okay? So what I wanted to tell you guys about is tomorrow it expires, but if you click register now, and you click add one, let's say, you go to register now. If you type in summer, right here where it says I have a discount code, if you type in summer 2024 and click apply, it will take 25% off. So that's $463 for an all-day event, 5 speakers, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with a happy hour and live music, okay? And of course, you get to hang out with me and the other 5 speakers and other amazing architects that are doing exactly what you do using BIM and technology to do it. So if you're interested, head on over to nichebim.com. I will put links below, and I really hope to see you guys in September. I'm really excited about it, and I hope you are too. Okay, thanks for giving me the time to do that. I haven't mentioned that on YouTube yet, so I just feel like I had to do it. And again, that offer code expires tomorrow. Okay, so in your backyard. Yes, Buildzilla, you said you were in Connecticut. That's awesome, man. You also asked, do you have a video where you show how to use the technique where you bring the rectangle to show the cutaways? Oh, of course. I can show you that right now. So the section box, let's show you. So what I was doing there, so there's a couple of different things. So you can turn on a section box just by clicking over here. There's a section box tab, but the trick that I was doing there, which some people don't know about, some people do know about, is if you wanted, let's say, section just this portion of stuff that you select. So I just selected these walls, right? I'm just holding tab and selecting these walls. If I type BX on my keyboard, it's going to put a section box around the selection. You don't have to type BX. You can also press up here. There's a little button for a section box, or selection box. But you can see what it did is it quickly put a section box around that. And then we could jump in. You could do things like move it around this way, check out the cutaways here, and move it around, and so on and so forth. So that's BX on the keyboard. It's one of those ones that I take for granted. Every time I use Revit, someone asks me, "How'd you do that? How'd you make the section box right away?" It's been there, but it's one of those things that people just don't know about. I didn't know about it either for a while. I will be completely honest. Okay. I'm glad you love the premise of Niche BIM. Definitely check it out, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions as you go along. I love the premise too, and I'm super excited for it. So, and hopefully it's something that we can do year after year. But this year is the first, and so if you want to be the first person ever to go to the first conference ever that I've hosted, then you can do it. Okay, so first let's talk about sketching. And anyone who's watched my videos in the past, whether you watch the Modern Barn series or the Modern Kitchen series, then you may have seen that my design process, a lot of times what I've done in the past is I have these Revit views. Like let's say if we jump in, I might quickly rough out, maybe the interior, this isn't laid out, right? And right now I just roughed out the mass. What I'll do is I'll quickly print this to an 8.5 by 11 or something like that. just quickly, print the view as it is, and then I'll throw it on trace, right? And then I'll jump back in Revit. I'll input some stuff to scale after sketching, playing around with ideas. I'll go in Revit, put some stuff to scale, print it out again, do it again, print it out again, do it again, and then that way I'm just playing with ideas, but I'm doing it, in a more free. And you can see here, even here. Oh, geez, sorry, just hit that there. Yeah, you can see here's some of the sketches. Those are just overlays. Here's a section overlay. Those are overlays of printouts, right? And so then you're able to, with less restriction, right, and more freedom, you're able to test out ideas, and then you can jump back in Revit and you can do them, you can do them to scale with real life objects and so on and so forth. I'm sorry, Sally. This year, there will be no remote access to Niche BIM. Maybe in the future, I would like to do some sort of live streaming or live piece of it. Just right now, the organization, the running, the administration side of it, all that stuff is enough to make my mind explode that I can't even think about the live streaming. I will do my best to record a lot of it and hopefully share some of that with you guys or within my community as well. So look out for that. Okay, so back to sketching. So that's a process I've been using forever, right? Set some stuff up, even if it's not fully detailed, print it out real quickly, throw trace on top of it, keep throwing trace, do the thing, go back in Revit, add some more detail, modify some things, print it out again, and it's sort of this iterative process between the two. And that's great, and I still do it, and I still love it. But I've been dying to use the iPad more, right? I have this awesome Apple Pencil, which is incredibly cool. I have this iPad Pro. I have all these cool apps, and so how can I take advantage of that and maybe not print as much either? Let's save the environment a little bit, right? So then I was thinking about, well, how do I make this as seamless as possible? So one thing you could do is, right, you could screenshot Revit or print Revit to PDF, however you want to get it out of Revit, throw it on like a cloud drive, open it up on the iPad, once it syncs, open it up, import it into whatever program you're drawing on and draw, and then do the same thing, right, blah, blah. And that's fine, and that does work, but it does add quite a few extra steps. You have to snip it, you have to put it into OneDrive or Dropbox, something like that. You have to wait for it to sync, go on here. The iPad, as great as I love the iPad, even with the file folder structure, it's still kind of awkward, maintaining files outside of apps and not inside of apps, whatever. So then, is that oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, this is a trace booklet, for those of you that don't know. Whoop, 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 whoop. Trace booklet by a friend of the show, Eric Reinholdt, who has also been on the show, 30 by 40 design workshop. I have links, I think, already in the description for this. If not, I will put links for it. But I absolutely love his field notes and his trace books, the size, the quality. These things are just incredible. Totally worth the money. So 100%. Okay, so let's talk about now. So so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, how can I streamline the process of getting a Revit view to draw on it on iPad? So I was trying to find apps where you can like draw on top of just your live iPad screen. And there's not really many out there. The snip tool in the iPad isn't too bad. But then also, okay, well, how do you get the Revit screen onto there? So for those who have seen the video, and I'll put a link to it, where I talk about my using Revit on iPad workflow, where I use a program called Jump Desktop, I thought, well, and I do use that all the time. I still use that to this day. Maybe if I do that, now I have Revit on iPad, and I have some way to snip it, and I can open it in a program or draw on top of it, and then I can make this a little more streamlined. So without further ado, let's talk about the workflow that I've sort of generated here. So, and bear with me, because I am going to be doing this for the first time ever. We're going to be, okay, for the first time ever. So hopefully you guys can see my laptop screen. Let me just go check the comments as we're going along and make sure you guys can see it. Discount is summer 2024. SUMMER 2024, all caps, and that's at nichebim.com. I put it in the chat, and I'll put it down below. Okay, I think you guys are seeing my iPad screen, which is awesome. Cool. Okay. Now, before I forget, let's just do, I want you guys to see my face too, because then I can talk to you while we're going along. So let's do this. We're making the sausage. Okay. You guys are seeing me make the sausage there. Okay. So, yeah, I think you're seeing my iPad screen, which is pretty epically awesome. You're seeing my kids fishing off of a dock, which is incredible. Okay, so First, how do I use iPad? How do I use Revit on an iPad? Well, jump desktop. So check this out. So I'm just gonna quickly connect to my desktop. So remember, you guys are seeing my iPad screen. Okay, this is my iPad screen. I am currently using my mouse. This is a Bluetooth mouse on my iPad, and I'm using Revit. Okay, so I'm currently using Procreate. I know Morpholio, I think it's called, is also supposed to be pretty good. I've been using Procreate for a little while just as a drawing tool to get better at it, and I really like it. I guess you might be able to do the same in Morpholio, but when I found out this, I was very excited about it. So first thing, let's say I want to sketch over this floor plan right here. So I'm just going to set up a little view here as I'm working along. I'm going to hit the power and the volume button. Hopefully you guys can hear me, by the way. I know the mic is over there. Okay, which takes a screenshot, right? If I open the screenshot, my first thing was, okay, well, technically I can just sketch right on top of this, which is cool, right? And so you could do that, and that's a step one, right? Technically I can sketch on top of this, I can do different things, you know, with this, etc., right? It's actually, the iPad, or the Apple sketching tool is actually pretty cool. So that was step one. All right, if I really wanted to, I can just quickly do that. I can quickly go in here, I can sketch this, I can save it as a new thing, etc., right? But if I want to use Procreate, I'm like, all right, what do I have to do? Do I have to save it to my file thing? Do I have to save it to my photos, then import it, and so on and so forth? But then I click this little arrow up here, and you'll notice you can actually open in Procreate. So right from my snip, I can jump it right into Procreate. And you can see it imported. It's actually back here. There's my imported image, right? And now I'm in Procreate, and now I have all the awesome things from Procreate. I have the layers. I can go on here. I can start. I can double tap here, and now I can start. Ooh, must have been coloring. Lower this, and now I can zoom in and I can start, you know, tracing over this, doing what I need to. If I take this guy, I can lower the opacity, and now I have the ability to sort of jump through, trace, and so on and so forth. So now you can see I'm able to quickly draw on top of what's there. If I need a different view, I jump back to jump desktop, no pun intended, and let's say maybe I want to take a quick section cut and I want to draw over this. I probably should check to make sure you guys can hear me, huh? I am talking completely away from the microphone. Let me know if you guys can't hear me. I'm sorry. I know that I'm turn my face around here. Okay. So if I take this snip, right, I go here, open in Procreate, and now I can quickly just jump around in Revit and throw, you know, and then be able to use the awesome tools in the drawing tools, like Procreate and this awesome Apple Pencil, right? So there's there's my sketch there. Again, it's a layer in here, so I can add a layer. I can jump this thing down, go back to layer 2, and now I can start sketching right on top of this, right? And then I can add layers. You know, I could add a color layer behind it, and so on and so forth. I could save it. I could do collections. If I want to, I can copy and throw another layer behind it. And that's kind of the workflow, right? So if I jump in, just so you guys can see some of the sketches I was doing on this project, here's a more recent one, right? So I'll start to play with colors and so on and so forth. You could see the layer structure I have here. I got a little out of control. I didn't really color it. I didn't name anything. But you can see if I turn on the background and I turn it up a little bit, you can see at the start, the starting point was a Revit file, right? It was a Revit background with some information on it, and I used that as my guide. Right, and then I just sort of filled in the gaps. You could see where I even deviated from it, where I was testing some things out. Right, you could see this wall, you know, this wall right here, this wall right here. I eliminated all those, right, as I was sort of playing around. Because again, you think differently when you're sketching versus in Revit for sure. But then I go back into Revit and I modify it and back and forth and back and forth and so on and so forth. Just a quick example here too of the elevation. So again, if you look on the background here, right, there's my elevation on and off. So I could turn off the background there and you kind of see. Just playing with some ideas and so on. But the cool thing about this is it's it's becoming sort of it's becoming sort of this more streamlined way to utilize. I'm sorry, I'm just playing with the screens down the background. To streamline that process, right? The cool thing, you know, by using Jump Desktop, you know, you're and if you're just working directly on it, now you're essentially doing all the sketching and the modeling all on the same device, right? It'd be great if I could just draw on my monitor, right, and had the quality and the haptic feeling and the pressure sensitivity of an Apple Pencil, but it doesn't. And so that's kind of the workflow I've been coming up with. I've been sort of going, and you can see it's working pretty well. That kind of fills in the gap of what I would normally print and then roll a piece of trace over, and so on and so forth. I never thought about taking a screenshot. Yeah, desktop sharing, exactly. And Absolute Des just said similar thing in Morpholio. You're screenshotting and pasting it. Same idea. Like I said, I think Morpholio is probably very similar. I don't have a skin in the game on either one. I've just been using Procreate more. I don't even have Morpholio installed, I don't think, on this one. But same idea. The cool thing about it, again, is that you're working, I'm working on Revit on the iPad, and I'm just quickly snipping when I want to sketch something, and then I can go back into it. So that's the workflow. Hopefully that gives you guys some ideas of how you can potentially do a different sketching workflow, a less paperless sketching workflow, and then starting to use this. And I have to say, I'm having a lot of fun with the Apple Pencil and drawing and playing with some of the ink types and the pressure sensitivity and the layers and the coloring. You can see I'm just fooling around with these drawings. But as you know, with the design process, it's even just tracing over what you've already modeled makes you think differently, right? And like where I notched in that inside. Okay. Grid overlay scale. Yeah, I think you can. So another thing too, which I didn't mention on there, is a lot of times what I'll do is if I don't have a floor plan laid out or something, I'll actually put, like a tub, a toilet, a shower, a bed, like stuff like that off the side of the floor plan when I'm printing or sketching on, and then I can use those as scaled objects. Or I think in Procreate and Morpholio you can scale. You can set a scale, I believe, too, which is fine. But personally, when I'm sketching, I don't like to think about scale. I like to draw it sort of with scale in mind, obviously, and then I'll go into Revit and I'll adjust 30 inches, and that was a little tight, and move on and stuff. But to me, when I'm sketching on that, like that kind of thing, I'm thinking about scale, but I'd rather not grab a scale and do it. But having references around helps you sort of get that sense, right? Okay, cool. So that was a sketching workflow. Hopefully that was useful for some of you guys. And I didn't get to see what I was trying to see the preview, so hopefully the whole iPad thing worked out. Let me know in the chat if you heard me and if it looked okay. That's kind of cool if it did, I have to say. Okay, so now let's talk about when to use design options and when not. And so, or actually, before we jump into that, let's talk about the level of modeling in early phases. So one of the things that I always seem to see is architects are afraid to model more early. And honestly, this goes beyond residential, right? This is engineering, architecture, doesn't matter. We're so afraid to model things early because they change, right? That's like engineers, the big thing. Like, oh, I'm not going to model my stuff until DD because you're just farting around with all your stuff. And my counterpoint to that is it doesn't take that much longer to model these things. Like, so if you can work out the kinks and take the time to model it early to a certain level of detail, I'm okay. Like, I mean, I'll show this example here, right? Like, yeah, this looks like a lot, but the truth is this was probably an hour or two of modeling, right? If you've got the libraries, if you got the stuff to go, it's not perfect, obviously, right? You could see these roofs. I started with roofs by extrusion. I eventually went to none of these joints are perfectly done, but there's a lot of detail in there. And the truth is the value added of working out those solutions digitally, the whole point we're using BIM, right, is to solve these things digitally, is way, 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 way better than me having to, oh boy, I have to delete this whole thing and remodel this little wing here. Whoop-de-doo, right? It adds another hour to the process. But it let me solve that, create that solution early. And so I'm perfectly fine modeling these things to this level of detail as early as possible. You saw this other scheme here, right? I mean, this is probably not even going to get built, and it's it's detailed. I even put the raised seams. It's got all the information in there. I did some custom trim real quick, just some extrude, in place, just again to test it out. And it doesn't. I'm okay. Deleting and remodeling stuff. I'm okay modifying it. The whole point we use Revit is because it's easy to revise things. I get it. At some point in time, when you're down the road, you're on CDs and you've got details and annotations and all that crap in there. Maybe, yeah, you're going to blow stuff up if you move it too much. But by then, you should have figured all this shit out anyways, right? So I just wanted to say that because I noticed, whenever I show this kind of stuff, it's interesting because there's sort of seems to be two pedagogies when it comes to this approach for architecture. One is a more abstract early conceptual design, in which you're essentially letting the client fill in the gaps of what it could be, or a more detailed conceptual design where you're filling in the gaps and showing them this is what it could look like. And my personal opinion, especially when it comes to custom small scale residential, is that most clients can't fill in the gaps. And so they, when they get to the point where they're seeing it now, where you might have seen it already, then now you're far down the road. So me personally, especially because I'm seeing these things in my brain as I'm designing them, but I'm also presenting it to my client, which is also my wife. And so getting it to a certain level of detail, even like jumping it into Enscape and Twin Motion, with textures, materials, furniture, etc. It goes a long way, and it's really not. To me, it's not. I see it as a positive use of time, not a negative use of time, if that makes any sense. And yeah, like Tyler just said, clients have a good. Again, that's my thing. Is like I don't. If I and I've done it before. I've done both ways. Like a more conceptual rendering, a more conceptual floor plan, etc. I just don't think most clients, especially at this scale, can fill in the gaps, and it's nothing against them. It's just they're not living in this world that we live in every single day. So I'm okay. Again, I feel like it's a positive use of time to model things to the level of detail you're seeing here, even if it's considered just conceptual design. And when, like photorealistic renderings, right? There's always a debate about that. Like, do you really do photorealistic renderings this early? You're spending all this time filling in all these gaps. And my personal opinion is yes. There's other folks who may think the other way. They have I think we can both exist in this world. I'm just telling you that as I was thinking about points to make during my process, that's one of the points to make is you'll see I'm modeling a lot at an early phase. Okay. I just wanted to check the chat real quick while you guys are going through 3D connection space models, Procreate. Yep. Okay. Yeah, actually, a good point there. They mentioned 30 by 40. So Eric Reinholdt, 30 by 40 workshop. He also has, and I actually didn't. I meant to get those. He has Procreate tools, which are a tool set for Procreate that look really cool. I haven't gotten there yet. Okay. So last but not least, let's talk about design options. And so this is one thing as well that I get this question quite a bit. So as you notice, I had 3 major schemes, and then within that, you'll see I have other options within it. I initially thought, do I try to take the entire scheme and make it a design option? The truth is, in this particular instance, especially because I did demo this roof, I did some demo work on this and whatnot. It just by the time I made a design option of this, it basically would have just been the whole building. And so I did a save as for these 3 options. Maybe I could have done a design option between the slab on grade and the non-slab on grade one. But when you're talking about this wholesale, demo items, all this other stuff, so on and so forth, I just did a save as. I think the design. I'm a huge fan of design options. I think it probably would have been less beneficial to do it on this one. If there's a reason to keep it in the same model, sure. So I did a save as. However, in this model, the current model here, let me go to basement plan. And this one, I do have design options. So overall, whole scale, building massing changes and stuff at that level, I'm just doing the save as, right? But now I'm within the zone, and I wanted to play with two options for this layout. One where the bedroom was on the west side, one where the bedroom was on the east side. That's an example where it makes sense to have a design option. And actually, I have another one. I have one where the master is upstairs. So you can see the primary is the east bath. And if I go to the west bath, you can see I have this option built in here as well. So that's a design option within it. And then I have one where the floor plan is actually, I was trying to see what happens if the family room upstairs is the master. Can we fit it? What's it look like? What's the pros and cons of that? And so that's where design options are successful, right? It's not perfect, right? Because this, I'm working it out, I didn't bother throwing this door into the design option. Anyone who's dealt with design options knows that if I put that door in the option, then the wall has to go in the option. That means that it has to be in all the options, and there has to be doors. And so sometimes if you're just testing things out, you don't need to throw everything in there. Same with these windows, right? Obviously this window wouldn't be there. So I kind of use that. I also, I sketch the options out. And so on the sketching, I was playing with the two different options as we go there too, right? And so, as far as design options versus save as and so on and so forth, I thought this was a really good illustration of when to use a design option versus save as, let's say. I have also done on projects where you just take the entire building and toss it into a design option and then have 3 or 4 different options within it. Not great because all the other stuff is now their own elements, and so you still, when you do that, you essentially have to accept primary to move on with your project. But you can do it. But I thought this was a great example where massing was its own file as I was sort of working through these things. I didn't want to lose one. I didn't want to do that. But then once I got in it, I wanted to test out 3 different layouts for the suite. Design options are absolutely perfect for that. Being able to work your way through it. Just want to check the chat here. Clients have a hard time with that. Side note, really like your phase shading 3D view you have in between. Oh, Tyler, yes. So I'll show that again. It's just fun. So yeah, this is all built into my residential template as well. So anyone who's interested in that, you can head on over to community.bamafterdark.com, and all community members have access to the residential template. But yeah, the phasing stuff is, when it comes to this, it's very nice to be able to see previous plus new looks pretty good there. All right, so even on the 3D view, it's pretty easy to see new versus existing. You'll notice I did keep phase 2 or phase 1 into this, and I'm sort of playing with phase 2. And then the same applies to the floor plans. Basically existing phase doesn't have a fill, new phase has a fill, that kind of stuff. Anyone who hasn't seen the template, the demo has some really nice graphics to it as well. Pretty clear and concise as far as I'm concerned. You can see it does these thicker lines, it does hashes, hatches as you go through it. I think the demo, does stuff like this, which I think looks graphically really nice. But yeah, that's all built into the template, and I have a couple of videos on how to create those. Okay, so what's next? So we talked a little bit about the project overview. We talked about some sketching processes, what level of detail to model to at an early phase during these, and then of course when to use design options and not. So next is I'm going to be hashing through these options, talking with my client, aka my wife, and sort of figuring out what works for us. And then at some point, I'll also be doing, once we feel comfortable with that, I'll probably start doing put the general contractor hat on and start looking at schedule and cost and implications and playing with that idea. And then, of course, continuing the process, adding details, doing the drawings, reaching out to bidders, doing all that stuff. And so, the next video might be something along the lines of honing in on a scheme, and maybe doing some presentation video, twin motion kind of stuff to convince the client that this is the way to go, and then moving on from that. Thank you so much for joining. This has been super fun. Oh, my light's flashing out back there, huh? Oh man, that's a bummer. I gotta get a new light. Well, thank you guys for joining tonight. This has been an awesome time. I hope you guys enjoyed me sharing this. I hope you like this format for this series using the live stream. Make sure you head on over to nichebim.com. Use offer code SUMMER2024 if you would like to join us in Hartford, Connecticut on September 9th for in-person discussions, kind of like this right here, right? But not just me, other speakers as well, getting 5 learning units, meeting some awesome people, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with some fantastic live music along the way. So again, that's nichebim.com, offer code summer2024, uppercase, all uppercase, and that expires tomorrow. Of course, subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Hopefully you guys will be back again, and I hope to show you more about this project as it unfolds. Yeah, thanks guys. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk soon.